second and final part of our series on the prosperity gospel and the purity culture. Today, we will delve deeper into some of the controversies and critiques surrounding these ideologies and consider what they mean for our faith and witness. As before, we want to warn our listeners that some of the topics we will discuss may be uncomfortable or challenging, but we believe they are important to address. So thank you for tuning in, and let's get started. Answering questions, being there, being open, and accountability. That's the biggest one. It's the things that anything that you have a hard time controlling. And what if it has to do, just as an example, because we don't just pick on sex, what about gaming? If you get so sucked into gaming that you're just gaming all the time. Stop looking at me. I'm not looking at you.
I'm thinking of somebody else.
Yes, I like to game, but I have priorities.
Talking to your children about these subjects so that they have an understanding and an awareness so that they can make informed decisions. Ultimately, when it comes down to sexual purity, it's having respect for yourself, having respect for your body,
And respect for God.
and respect for God.
Ultimately.
And really, when it comes to sexual intimacy, it really should be between two people who love each other. Because take it from a person who didn't, it's totally meaningless. And it's not all that great. Really not. And I know a lot of people will have a lot to say about that, but you know what? I had somebody who said that about it. I said, I do know what you're talking about, and it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't. Do I respect myself enough to say, no, I'm sorry? No.
I deserve more than instant gratification versus like actual meaningful.
And since my husband has passed away back in 2007, I have, even before he passed away, because he was sick and stuff like that, I haven't been with anybody. I haven't gone on any date. I haven't had any conversations with any single man that I can call David, but he doesn't count because he's a child.
He's our brother.
He's really young. He's younger than my daughter, so
That
that
would be
doesn't
weird.
count. That would be weird. So I'm trying to think. Because there are guys at my work who are, but to me, they're just brothers.
Yeah,
So
that's how I consider a lot of. Like, yeah, I've only had the one. My ex-husband was the only person I've ever been with, and before and after, I feel at this moment a calling in singleness.
Yeah.
I never like to say never, because God doesn't use that word often, or He doesn't like when we use that word because He usually says haha and puts us on the never. But I'm not looking. I'm happy in my singleness. And that's why I wanted to be starting this ministry with Monique and David and Andy, because I want other people to see the positive side of this. And yeah, I was 30 when I got married, so I had no sexual partners up until that point, and I was 40 when I was divorced. So I can say that because some people were like, how did you go that long? Yes, there was a porn addiction in there too. But also, I did want to wait for that person. I desired that. I think I was sucked into the purity culture thing where there was this idea of amazing. The sex part wasn't really what I was worried about. It was like this amazing relationship. This were Disney prince relationship, romantic, and it was going to be amazing because I was just going to wait for that one person. And am I upset that I waited and it was a person that I didn't spend my life with? No, I'm not upset that I didn't have multiple partners. I'm not upset that I just had the one that I feel fine with.
Yep.
And I'm not needing to expand my repertoire. I don't know.
Is that what they call it?
I don't know. I'm good. I'm not really thinking that way.
No, I'm not either. And I wonder if that might be part of the trick. Would that be a trick?
That'd be a trick.
I get rid of if you look at them, that understanding that these are all brothers, people, and they're all made in the image of God, whether they're Christian or not Christian.
They deserve love, respect,
and they deserve to grace. And they, in the same way, should be giving that same respect and grace to the girl. Yeah.
I think what's different now that I'm 40 versus when I was 20, and I know part of that is age changes, sexual drives, and life. Your hormones different. You just get tired faster, and things hurt.
And the very idea.
Yes.
Too much work.
Yes. But I think I've accepted singleness as a valid lifestyle. I'm not less of a person. I am not deficient in any way from being single. And I think with the purity culture, they put so much focus on even like courtship and marriage and finding the right person and waiting till you're married, that marriage culture became the be all and end all. Like I said, no teaching on what it was to be single. Which is why we really wanted to start this ministry, because we want to teach what it is to be single. That's why we did a podcast per pillar, to give a real good foundation of what we mean by living the single life. Because if you're married, you could still struggle with the fact that there's no sex. Because what happens if the other person is ill, very ill with cancer or something, or injured to where they couldn't perform in that function, or things like that? And are you going to just be like, I'm out of this marriage because that was why I was here? And if you put that as the whole focus of your marriage, of your whole focus of your life, really is what it is, because if you're signing pledges and things, you're really focusing on the what's to come and not the where I am. And then if you're doing it for the wrong reason, you're going to live it out like that. And you become very dissatisfied very quickly if things don't live up to your expectation.
Yep. So where's your heart? Where's your treasure? For a lot of people in the church who get married, we can probably say that they have good marriages. They say that the divorce rate in churches is no different than the divorce rate in the secular world, but even. So just as many people get divorced in the church, we have people in our church who've been divorced. Yeah. And, what happens if your spouse dies and you're left by yourself? Wait a minute. I did this purity thing. I found my perfect spouse. We got married. He got sick and a year later he died. Or she died.
Yeah. And again, there's the whole disenfranchisement with God and with the church, because they were promised something that didn't come true.
That didn't come true.
And if we promise anything that's not God promised, then we could be promising something we're most likely promising something that is false. Yeah. Anything, if it's not God, then it's fallible.
So what would you say is God's vision for humanity?
For humanity as a whole? To love him and to glorify him. Glorify him and love him forever.
What the heck did that come from?
Catechism. So you know the chief end of man? To love him and glorify him.
A little too serious there. Come on. And worse. The church is not a fix for singleness.
And we called ourselves Route 77 for a reason.
Yeah.
We talked about it before. We see life as a journey to the end being heaven when Christ comes again. We need to teach that we need to live this journey 100% for God by doing what we've said in the pillars. We need to be accepted of where we are in the moment that God has placed us. We need to be anchored on God and his word and what he has actually said in the scriptures.
We need to abide in Jesus.
Abiding,
remaining,
striving. I can pretty much guarantee you, if you're running a race and you're striving for the end and that goal, everything else is falling by the wayside. Yeah. You don't see anything else except that destination.
Yeah.
So that if you create those accountability people around you for the positives as well, like for helping you to create positive behaviors, even like devotions and prayer and bearing one another's burdens, and also accountability in areas where you have weakness, if it's like sexual temptations or working out too much, any area that you feel like is a weakness for you. For me, yes, porn is weakness. And so I have to be constantly on the ball on that. I can't just be like, whatever. So I got to just be constantly aware of what's going on. When you create those patterns of awareness, it actually does become a pattern that you can live your life in. And so you're not constantly having to highlight it and deal with it. You create healthy patterns. And then finally, and you be active.
Yeah.
The more you sit down on the couch and don't do anything, or you just stay in your own little island of you, then the
more susceptible you are to falling into sin, to just stagnate.
Even like depression of what you don't have. Because that's the thing about this stuff, right? The prosperity gospel. I don't have XYZ. I deserve XYZ.
So and being active doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and volunteer for every single solitary thing in the church.
No.
It could be just doing something that you like to do for your own self.
Yeah.
Riding a bike, going out with your friends.
All these things, if they're done in good proportions and they aren't done outrageously, because you could take anything and create an addiction or a bad habit with it. We decided individually before we met to do Taekwondo. And Monique has since decided to do several things within the church, joining choir, doing the video and the slide, the presentation.
Working on the camera.
Working on the camera, exactly. So she's taken the time to do that. And sometimes we don't have as much time. I'm working 2 jobs, so my time is limited. And yet what I'm doing is I'm taking time that I could be doing things that are more like exciting for me or whatever, just being lazy, but I'm doing it because I feel like this ministry is important.
Yep.
So I make extra time.
But I also do gardening.
And you also garden
Yeah.
for your own because you enjoy that.
I do. Because that was something else that I heard somebody else say about being single. Is that like, oh, good, you're single? Do we have a job for you? And they say, we need people in nursery, and we need people here, we need people in the Sunday school, and to the point where the single person has no other life but what they're doing in the church.
They said they become the church gophers.
Yeah, the church gophers. Yeah.
And yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah.
But I think there definitely should be a service part of your life, and it doesn't have to be within the church specifically. Like we're doing this ministry, it's outside of the church, but it's within the church at the same time. But there's other people, like I said, there could be like me who works a lot of Sundays, so like a lot of church-specific stuff that's on Sundays is hard to do. Jesus served the people, and there were times when he took alone time.
Yep.
So if Jesus isn't the one to role model, then who is? Like he is your role model.
He walked a lot.
He
I think
walked
that
a
might
lot.
be.
He was probably pretty trim.
Yeah, he probably was. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of a chubby Jesus.
No, I don't think so either. That brings to mind one of our friends Laura, and I know you're going to listen, so you're going to hear your name. But she told me today that she likes to go for walks, and while she's walking, she prays. And that is a time that she values because it's her time alone. And that it was like, wow, I used to walk and I would listen to music.
I can't stand walking for the sake of walking. I think it's ridiculous. I'll run on the soccer field. I'll do Taekwondo. I love sports.
Riding a bike.
I can't stand. Yeah, I'll ride the bike for the dog, but I have to have a purpose. That's why the sports give me a purpose. That's like putting skates on and skating, but not having a hockey stick. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't even understand people who just want to skate for the sake of skating. It's just weird. Blows my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to go to Rollerland. We used to roller skate.
And then
when
you
I was a
just
teenager.
go in circles.
I know, I loved it.
I'm sorry, I need a stick and a puck or a ball or anything to make activity purposeful. If I was in a bike race, that would make sense. I know you'd have to train, but then, I don't know. I'm not great at it.
So there are many ways to keep yourself active.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that actor doesn't have to be physically, but
No.
if you look at Jesus, he took time to rest. He took time away from the service of the people specifically. Sometimes he just slept, like in the boat. He was sleeping. He was resting. He was taking him time to recuperate because that is a good thing. That's why we're given the Sabbath of rest, because we need that. And yet we are to serve. So if we're constantly keeping ourselves busy with things that are just for ourselves, I think we're losing something.
Yeah.
We're losing a purpose in our life. And there's so many ways to serve, and you can think outside the box. It doesn't have to be like in the nursery or at a soup kitchen. There's so many ways to serve. For me, working at Taekwondo is, it's a paycheck, but the community of people that have developed that I just love.
Yeah. And so many of the children love you because you are such a good teacher. These are some ways that your gifts are used in positive ways. Because with you and the kids in Taekwondo, they love how you teach. Because you teach them well and they love how you do that. Other people are sitting there going, yeah, but I thought we were talking about sexual purity and all this kind of stuff. So what we're trying to get at is that this part of your life isn't all your life. This is such a small part of your life. There is so much more to you than just being this sexual being that can't keep everything in check.
And like we talked about being a road and a journey, we call singleness a lane on the road and marriage a lane. You can't be in both lanes. You're going to be one or the other. And you might move back and forth from one lane to the other. We hope that's not what happens constantly, but just look at Elizabeth Elliot. She had 3 husbands, so they all passed away. Like you don't know.
No.
You don't know. And by creating this unrealistic expectation of marriage, you're like Monica pointed out before, you'll get disenfranchised really quick because the marriage isn't what you think it's going to be. And if it ends through divorce or death, then you're even further disappointed with, and you're not disappointed with yourself or even your spouse usually, you're disappointed with God.
Yeah.
because they're like, hey, wait a second, God, I remained pure. I didn't watch any porn. I kept my dress long and my shoulders covered. I did all these things, God. Why did you not give me my husband? Why did you not give me my wife? Why did you take them away?
Yeah. It all comes back to the purpose. Why are you doing this? What is the reason for, are you doing it because you want that very perfect spouse? Or are you doing it because it's something that you want to honor God with?
Are you doing the right thing for the right reason or the right thing for the wrong reason? Thank you, Adventure to Odyssey, again.
Yeah.
Listen to that episode. It is very good.
Do you know which episode that is?
I do not. But
so you're telling the people.
Yes. So just listen to all the Adventures in Odyssey. It will be in there somewhere because they're all worth listening to. But it was one that was back out in like probably the 90s, maybe 2000, because I did hear it. I still listen to them, but I did hear it as a younger person. We had that one on a audio cassette. Pretty sure it was an audio cassette.
Yeah. But they're out there available somewhere.
They have Adventures in Odyssey Club, which is basically like their app, and you just pay, I think it's like $15 a month, and you get access to every single episode ever made.
Cool.
Where was that when I was a kid? We just had the same.
Did you have
12
apps?
No, we had cassette players and the same 12 episodes over and over. And then a few years later, we might get another one. So when I got to get that, I was pretty excited.
No different. Right? It's a lot of fun, that show. In reclaiming our sexuality, we've got to move away from our self-centeredness and put it more on a God-centeredness.
So the right thing for the right reason. Mm-hmm. And by aiming, I always think of it as like marriage is the goal line, because you're trying to get over that goal line. So over the marriage to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And
but you need to understand the importance of covenantal love.
Yeah. Yeah. The marriage relationship should be based. Imagine this road that we're on takes a detour through the jungle. Now you got to walk the road. And you got to cut down vines, and you've got to step over giant tree stumps and get through this and be safe from animals. Or all this type of stuff. So imagine that you're with another person. You're going to be helping that person up over things, holding their hand, or standing in front to protect them, or
lifting branches
out of their way. Sometimes you may need two of you to lift the log out of the way. So you're going to be working together on this journey towards heaven. So this is the type of relationship you want. One that is mutual love, where you're there to help and support one another. You're not there to get yourself from here to there the fast as you can. And, or whatever happens to your spouse, whatever.
And you're not in it to get something out of them.
No.
It's what you can give to
Jesus
them.
never was out to get what he could get for himself, or he would never have gone to the cross.
Yeah. It was what he could give to us.
It was purely what he could give to the other person. Because I work Sundays, I'm one sermon behind. So this is in Monique's past sermon from last week, Pastor Justin was talking about forgetting oneself. Like a child has no conscious thought about themselves. They just say whatever.
Right.
And they do whatever. They're not worrying about what people are thinking about them or what consequences or anything. They're just doing whatever. And that's the sort of thing that we're talking about. And that's what he was talking about in his sermon, was that we need to act like we have no self. In a sense, not like we're selfless, so we're not worth less, but that everything that we're doing is in regard for the other person, for God, for our spouse, for our children, for those around us, for our brothers and sisters, or those who are unbelievers. Everything in us is done purely for their good. And that is not easy. I'm not good. That's easy to say, but it is not easy.
It's a little hard to get out.
It's a little hard to get out. That's a formulated thought. But it's what your life is meant to be lived as. That is what you should be.
If a child believes, like a 3, 4, 5-year-old, and they'll just tell you all about it. And you're just like, oh yeah, pretty cool. Wow, that's like, okay. What did you learn? Let me tell you about Sunday schools. If we're a little bit more hesitant, because we're just like, oh, what if they get mad at me? Or what if they say this, that, and the other thing? Or they might think I'm weird.
Instead of focusing on what you get when you act a certain way, then you have to start focusing on, like, how does God want me to act in this way? And regardless of self. And that is
hard.
because we're so geared for self-protection.
Yeah.
We do not want to be canceled. We do not want to be fired. We do not want to be ridiculed. We do not want to be killed in some countries.
We don't want to be
yelled at. We don't even want to be looked down, like from a frown at us. We don't even like that. And or we don't even want to make people feel uncomfortable.
No.
We have a very hard time in this culture. We're so geared towards like pluralistic society where everybody is allowed to believe what they want, so that you don't want to offend anybody. And so we have all these worries going on in our head. So it's difficult because we're sinful human beings and we're self-protective.
God make me like a little child, because that's really tiring what you just said.
It is exhausting and it's not easy. And there's no blueprint outside of the Bible that you can follow that's going to be perfect.
No.
And the Bible is only minorly specific about what to do. It says what to do, but it's not so specific. If you look in the Old Testament, it's interesting when we read the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament, prior to the people having the Spirit dwelling within them, before the Holy Spirit was dwelling within them, God laid everything out exactly point for point. You do this with this animal at this time, with this way. Any deviation is not a pleasing aroma to the Lord. It's exhausting.
Just reading it was
exhausting. And yet what we see in the New Testament is that the Spirit has been given into us. So we have been given the Spirit of discernment and within us. So God is much less specific in his instructions in the New Testament. And so he might say something specific, but how we are to live that out isn't so specified like it is in the Old Testament. So to say, again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, to say that the purity culture way is the way, there's no biblical mandate to follow courtship, to have a skirt so many inches above the knee. All these things, there's no biblical specific mandate, but they were trying for the best of their ability to create this way, but there's no specific way that's detailed in the scripture. So we have to.
They don't tell you point for point. If you do this and this and this and this and this.
We want that.
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah,
that's why the prosperity gospel is popular for people. Because they know if they give X, they're supposed to receive Y. If they do X, then their health should go back. Yeah. So if they're given if you do this, then this will happen. That's God the genie. Or somebody said God the butler.
God the butler.
Yeah. Oh. Jeeves, go get my husband.
Ah.
Yeah.
Jeeves, I won $1 million.
So these are
I'm still waiting for that?
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
Good thing God's not a butler.
No.
It would be a crazy world. And he wouldn't be God.
True. He wouldn't be God. And really, would that really be what will make you happy? Think about it. Think about it carefully. I was listening to this one person who was saying, everybody assumes that if you had a whole lot of money, you will be a whole lot happier. Rich people will tell you that they've got different problems.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
And how many people who are rich have committed suicide or whatnot, just as many who lose their money. Nothing is a guarantee. And so as soon as we say something's a guarantee that's not guaranteed in scripture, then we are stepping outside of our bounds, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's where the dangers come of taking the good thing, making it a God thing, becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
Or doing the right thing for the wrong reason. And again, I want to reiterate that these people who created this specific purity culture had good intention. And yet we see in 2019, like I shared at the beginning, all of these people mailing their purity rings into this feminist pastor.
She created
this
golden calf.
Yes.
It wasn't a calf. An inappropriate
anatomy statue.
And it wasn't a small thing.
No, it was quite large. Yeah. And to me, it was about the size of the World Cup from World Cup soccer.
Oh, okay.
That size.
So some people will know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Probably.
It's about that big.
It's about this big. You can see, right?
Yeah.
All people listening, you can see, right?
Yeah. It's about that
My
big.
hands are about the size of the World Cup trophy for soccer.
Go search up rather than going to look at this trophy or this statue, just go look up the World Cup and you'll know the size.
Yes,
that's good enough.
And that's made of rings. Purity ring that people sent in when she made a call for that.
Now, would that have been around the time that Josh Harris made his announcement?
It was around that time. Because this is a time when people were coming out. If you actually start typing in purity culture into Google, it'll come up with trauma. as part of that, as an option to look up.
Because of the shame and fear
The
and
fear, shame-based thing that's created, and the disenfranchisement with God and with the church, and the disappointment, and they felt like they've been lied to, and all these things.
Do
And
you think that a lot of people would have walked away from the church because of that too?
I think there were a lot of people that walked away from the church. That's right. Because they were promised.
Because we know that Josh did.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's just one of many things that can lead people away.
Yeah.
But if we, as a church, evangelical church community, try to, like I said, promise something that's not promised in the scriptures specifically, and guaranteeing something,
Leading your congregation
then
down a
you're
bad path.
leading people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And that is what happened with purity culture. That is why there's trauma, because
And the prosperity gospel does the same thing.
and this is just a tendril of the prosperity gospel that most evangelical churches will deny the validity of prosperity gospel, which is good. Which is true, but they don't realize that tendrils still slip in.
Yeah. They still have, in some ways, they speak it without really speaking it.
Yeah, because it's in different words, and they don't realize it's still a formula of getting what I want from God. Because somebody on one of the podcasts said, it's like you're signing a contract with God.
Yeah.
Okay, God, I'm doing this. You owe me this. I don't know any scripture that says that God owes us anything. He gives us things, especially things that we don't deserve.
Yeah. Like salvation. Yeah.
But
Forgiveness
it
of
was not
sins.
owed to us. Death is the only wages that we're owed.
Yeah. If we were to really boil it down, what we were really owed is the
Wages
death that
of sin.
Jesus.
Wages of sin is death, and we are all sinners, and that is the only thing we are owed. And through God's grace and Jesus' sacrifice on the cross,
His death and resurrection.
then that is the only thing we can say is guaranteed. The gift of the salvation gift is guaranteed eternal life. And that's because it's said in the scripture.
Yeah.
That's not me saying that.
And isn't that something else that the scriptures do say as well? Test everything. If the Bible doesn't say it, then it's not of the Bible. I didn't grow up in the church. The purity culture, I read Josh's book.
I kissed it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think we were still...
Early 2000, I think.
Probably.
The time we had it.
Yeah.
I was in university still.
Real? So it was probably around that time. I know I was the church librarian still at that time. So and I read the book and I thought, wow, these are pretty cool. I don't remember because it was quite some time ago, but thinking it was like, oh, okay, so I pretty much I can't kiss a guy anymore. Not that I'm kissing anybody.
Yeah, we're not kissing everybody.
Because that would be weird too.
But it was the prescription of a certain way of living.
Yeah.
That wasn't specifically biblically mandated.
But I had kissed guys before. I had a child. I'm sorry, I kissed a guy. Excuse me.
You didn't have the child without kissing? That might have been weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't in a swimming pool either.
No.
Because I heard of that happening once before. No, I'm a virgin. It happened when I went swimming.
Okay then.
So moving on. So for me, the idea that that if I dated somebody, I could never kiss him until we got married. It felt really weird to me. But I remember that time being around. But I didn't really fall for that too much because I'd already been so far. It's too late for me now. But I remember being part of the prosperity part, the name it and claim it. Because life and death is the power of tongue. They used to say that all the time. So I do believe that in the negative and the positive. If you've ever been around somebody who's really negative, you're going to start feeling that negativity.
Well, it creates like what they call a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
I'm going to fail this test. I'm going to, and it's negative.
Yeah.
The more that you say it, like the less that I can tell you this is weird. When I'm looking for a cow, because I work with cows, I'm looking for a cow's number. If I think in my head, she's not here,
You will never find her.
I will not find her. And then I go through again, or like I have to go get the farmer, come help me find the cow. She's right there. Literally right there. Like staring at you. Big blinking lights on the number. It's just, but the moment that I told myself, it's not there. Because I already looked. It's not there.
Yeah.
And then I look through once, I don't see her. And then I'm like, oh, look again, but she's not there. I will not find it. And it's just that negative. It's not like negative has a power over you, like some sort of spiritual power, I think, in a sense. But it
just blinded.
mystical. It just
Blinds you for a minute.
and it creates, so if you start saying negative things, then you're going to believe those. You can have a tendency to believe those things.
So the prosperity gospel, they turn that around. So you say all the positive things, but it's not just all the positive things, it's the positive thing. So if you say to yourself, often I will have a new car, I get a new car, I promised a new car, I get a new house, I promised a new house, I'm going to have a new house. I am promised, and you repeat that to yourself too, because they say it's your own fulfilling prophecy that all of this will come to you. But that's not what I believe that word means when it says life and death is in the power of the tongue. It's more of a spiritual thing, not a physical manifestation thing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Joel Osteen always says these things, right? He always says this thing. I was trying to find his quote on basically what he has everybody say every time they come. I am this, and I am this, and I am this, and I am a child of God, and I am this.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily wrong.
No.
But you're trying to create like a mantra of power. I don't know, like you're trying to create some sort of mystical power from it. And like a right thing for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not necessarily saying a wrong thing,
No.
even like a biblically wrong thing, but the reason that you're saying it, definitely wrong thing.
Yeah. If you say like the thing, by his stripes I am healed, you've been feeling sick for days. You think there's something wrong, but instead of going to the doctor, you just say, I am healed in Jesus' name. By his stripes I am healed. I am what is it that they say? I'm the healed. I am the overcomer. I am strong. I am healthy.
You notice it's the I. If then I, not if then God.
Right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, then they have no choice. They have to go to the hospital because they're in so much pain they can't stand it, and realize that they're now in stage 4 cancer that they could have had healed had they gone when they first had their, it's, you can become a millionaire. God, I'm going to become a millionaire while I walk to the store and buy another lottery ticket. Right?
So coming to the conclusion for this topic, I guess we need to understand that the sexual revolution
instigated.
Yeah, the sexual revolution and recreational dating created one side of the pendulum. Purity culture was the other side of the pendulum. But we swung one side to the other.
Back again.
And back. And we're just, I don't even know what's swinging.
I think we're all
all over
control.
the place. We're no longer a swinging pendulum. We've fallen off the clock.
The pendulum has actually fallen off and we're rolling down the hill and it's gone. It's taken off. We have no idea what's going anymore.
So how do we find a middle ground? Find the pendulum, put it back on the clock, and find the middle ground.
Yeah. Without God, there is no way of finding it. No.
And I think the key is there's no blueprint, there's no formula you can follow that will guarantee
success,
an outcome. That is prosperity gospel. You need to understand, you need to follow what the Bible does tell you. And it has lots of things that tells you how to live your life, and love is being in love, being love. Love is patient, love is kind, is long suffering, and is not puffed up. Like those are
Corinthians 13.
So there's those like those, and you have the fruits of the Spirit, and you
Galatians.
have So we have lots of, but again, they're not specifically laid out. You can do X, Y, Z, and you'll be long suffering. It's just like you just
have to sit in traffic.
But see, that might work for you. Oh, but for me, that might not be a thing that works for me. So that's for us specifically in the singles ministry. That's why we go back to we talked about our 5 basic pillars. So we're going to say, accept the moment you're in. If you are single, accept your singleness. 2, anchor. Get yourself in the Word. If you're not, get yourself in there. That's very important. Get yourself into a fellowship community. Get yourself into prayer. Anchor yourself fully on God. That has to happen. 3, we need to abide. You need to create the habits in your life that's striving for the God-given goal of heaven and the glorification of God. Then accountability. Bring those people around you in your life. Don't remain solo. No. That is God,
That is a
Satan wants
dangerous-
us. Satan wants us to be
Isolated.
isolated from one another because that is where sin breeds in.
And that's where he does his best work, is when he isolates you.
And finally, we need to be active. So we don't, like we had said, you don't have to physically do something to be active. It means that you have purposefully done things in your life. Things are just happenstancing to you. They're not just happening by accident. You purposefully chose this job, or you chose to apply to this job. You purposely chose this ministry. You went out.
You did something for a purpose.
Yeah. And the purpose, again, it's not if then I, if then God.
Yeah.
The purpose is God's glory. You're doing it for His
Glory.
Yeah. It's God's purpose, God's glory. There's nothing higher. And you need to actively pursue that.
Yeah.
When you can focus your life on the end being heaven and not worrying about the changing of lanes from single to married, then you can develop the character, the life, and the purpose that it would make a good marriage partner. So you're creating a person who can help on the journey to heaven instead of getting there by yourself in whatever way you can, as long as you get what you want.
Yeah. And be careful about taking verses in the Bible out of context. This purity, prosperity, gospel thing always takes but seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. You have to read the whole with that whole thing, because it's not just that if I seek God, then He is going to give me this perfect, because He's what will you eat or what will you drink? He is saying that God will care for you. So if you seek God, God will take care of you, and He will care for you. And like He knows when a sparrow falls to the ground, so He will know you. So He says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble with its own.
Yeah, so focus on your part of the journey you're in at the moment. And we're assuming a lot of people who are listening to this will be single. So embrace your singleness. Use it as an active part of your life, a part of your journey. You're not sitting on the side of the road. You're not thumbing for a ride on the marriage lane. It's like I think that's what I thought I was doing. I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing in my 20s.
That actually makes a whole heck of a lot of sense.
Hitchhiking
I was hitchhiking. I had my thumb out looking for someone to pick me up. That's really sad.
It's bad. A merge should happen gradually and safely.
Yes.
Not suddenly and abruptly.
Yeah.
So
because you don't know who you're going to knock off the road.
You never know who's coming up your blind spot. Yeah. So if you're focusing on the destination and you're creating the life in the moment, so it's like you're focusing on the moment in regards to the end result, and the end is heaven, not marriage. There you go. Positives to singleness. There's so many.
There's so many. Yeah.
Good.
I think that's our
podcast.
Yeah.
I think we ended well.
Yeah. So that's our end. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. I hope what we said has given you some encouragement. And if you did fall into that culture and you're sitting there going, now what do I do? There's always redemption. There's always forgiveness. There's always grace. God hasn't given up on you, and we're not going to give up on you. No. We will continue to try to encourage. And if you have any questions,
comment, criticism, hopefully be nice.
Please.
We try our hardest.
Yeah. You can message us on Facebook, Route 77 Ministries. We are also on Instagram. And you can also email us at route77ministries@gmail.com. All right. Lots of fun.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye. That concludes our discussion on the prosperity gospel and purity culture. We hope you found this series informative and thought-provoking, and that it has sparked further reflection and conversation. If you have any feedback or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Next week, we will be starting a new series on the stereotypes of singles in the church. This is a topic that affects many of us, whether we are single or not, and we believe it deserves a closer look. So please join us. Until next time, take care and live your single life to its fullest.